obviously both teams mixed up the tempo. Look out, Purdy is, whoa, what is he doing? What is Brock Purdy doing? Touchdown TCU. Kendrick Van Zandt. The question will be, was he down?
So here's the pressure from the field, obviously unaccounted for, untouched, and he is not down, and that is backward, so that forward part doesn't even matter. He didn't hit the ground, no, that is it.
Purdy sprints out of the pocket, sets, steps up, in trouble. And knocked down, ball loose, ball picked up. Jalen Redmond, don't meet me there, beat me there, touchdown, Oklahoma, 42 yards. Huge mistake from Brock Purdy. He's trying to tuck this ball, and it gets knocked out by Key Lawrence, number 12. There's Redmond for the pickup.
They go empty here. Nearing 4 minutes to go in the third quarter. Purdy's pass batted in the air. Purdy bats it forward, and it's intercepted by Goodrich. Inside the 10, Goodrich into the end zone. Touchdown!
Can't get to the quarterback. Shut the rush down. Get your hands up. Excellent job there by Maskell. And Brock Purdy, if he's going to bat that ball, he's got to bat it to the ground. He's got to spike that thing like a volleyball player.
Purdy to throw, pumps, steps up, takes off, gets the first down, and he fumbles the ball. He jumps on it, back at the 37-yard line. That's short of the marker.
Short of the line to gain first down.
Wow, they turn it over on downs because Purdy lost the ball.
And how about the effort here by Goodrich? Wow. Goodrich comes in with his right hand, the old peanut punch, knocking it loose.
Niners fans have got to watch a video like that and think, holy shit, it could actually get worse than what it's been the last 2 weeks.
Man, I never really watched a whole lot of the Big 12 because I'm down here in SEC country, but man, that was some funny stuff right there. Brock Purdy. It seems like he's always had it in him, right?
That's the. I mean, there's a reason that he was like, wasn't he Mr. Irrelevant? Wasn't he the last pick?
He was Mr. Irrelevant. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
So, there's a reason that he was not a highly recruited or drafted quarterback, and just that 2 minutes of football beauty was all you needed to know. I mean, he definitely had it in him. And the last two games, man, you really saw it come out. Like after their last game, I was like, there's no way I can't play the Brock Purdy intro that I've got put together. Like I made this preseason just on the off chance that at some point this dude is going to revert back to this, and then I get to run the intro. Like that's
you had it in the bank. You had it in the bank, just waiting to come down.
I've been sitting on this since preseason, just waiting for the week to come where he completely implodes and throws 4 picks or something. So here we are. Like,
okay, so I was wondering this from the beginning of the year after Trey Lance was traded, and when do they go to Sam Darnold? Do you think they will step away from? Do you think they're like locked in to Brock Purdy because they traded away Lance, or will they make the move at some point in the season to Sam Darnold?
Unless Purdy gets hurt, I don't think they go to Darnold just because of because of everything that they invested into Trey Lance, only to turn around and like ship him out and go with Brock Purdy. Like they're gonna run Brock Purdy out there every game until he gets hurt, and they might come up with an excuse for why he's hurt when he's not actually, in order to give Darnold a chance. But unless he's hurt, he's going to be the starter, I think.
I mean, he probably has to be, and in all honesty, he's like just the last 2 weeks. I mean, he got his brain scrambled 2 weeks ago. And then he had this past game right here. So they got the bye weekend. We'll see how he does. But he seems to manage that system pretty well. But I think at some point, I mean, in the Shanahan system, I think he can even make Sam Darnold look like a serviceable NFL quarterback. So it's just kind of how it is. And he's more athletic and he's got a better arm. So, but who knows? He sees ghosts, unlike Brock Purdy. So who the hell knows?
Well, I mean, Purdy has shown himself to not be a bad quarterback. I think he was rated pretty high before the past 2 games, and even with the past 2 games, he still has pretty good stats in terms of the rest of the NFL. So it's not like he's terrible. He just, and everybody's prone to have one of those games from time to time. I mean, you see Josh Allen has one every now and then. Joe Burrow started the season off slow. Even Patrick Mahomes will have one of those just like dunce games where it doesn't look like he can hit an open receiver to save his life. And,
He had that this past week.
Happens.
Yeah, no, of course. And in that, on that team with the weapons that he has and that defense, I mean, especially now that they got Chase Young, if he's healthy, it's like all Brock Purdy has to do is be that manager, be that game manager, and make the throws when he has to. But you got Kittle, you got Debo when he's healthy, you got McCaffrey, Ayuk. I mean, the 49ers problem has been and seems to always be health. Like last 3-4 years, something happens, they have the major injury bug. I mean, last year they went through 4 quarterbacks. That's the only reason they didn't go to the Super Bowl last year. And even with their third string, last draft pick rookie, they almost made it to the Super Bowl. So it's just like something's going on down there in Santa Clara or wherever the hell their stadium actually is that causes people to just fall apart as the season goes on. It's kind of ridiculous.
Well, and like you said, I mean, they've had the bye week. They've got a chance to get people healthy to kind of regroup. They looked like they were very possibly the best team in the NFC prior to these last 2 games. So, they come back out of the bye week. We may see over the rest of the season, they may, go back to that. They had that bump in the road that every team kind of hits during the season at some point. And, you get over the hump, and then it's smooth sailing from there. So I hope, for the sake of good football, you hope that the Niners, like, that's what they went through, and they'll come out on the other side looking good.
I was one of those people, and I think I said it the last time we actually had the show when it was Jim and I. I thought the San Francisco 49ers were by far the best team in the league. And that was before the game against Cleveland where they lost like 3 of their best players in the exact same game. And then they ended up losing that game. But, I mean, up until that point, they were clearly the best team in the league. And, I mean, they definitely have the chance to go back to there. I mean, if McCaffrey is healthy, if they get back Debo, if Trent Williams is healthy, I mean, there's no reason to think that they're not going to go back to rolling the way they are, especially, like I said, just strengthening their defense. I mean, Chase Young and Bosa on the line coming after you. I mean, can you have 2 better pass rushers? And I don't know. Is that right now, after the last few weeks, I probably have to say Baltimore is probably the best team in the league right now. I mean, I don't know if San Francisco can get to that point back, but like right now, Baltimore is just killing people. And they're kind of depleted on their offense a little bit as well, but Lamar's doing Lamar things, and their defense is looking pretty nasty.
That's the crazy thing about Baltimore right now is like if you have any Baltimore players on like your fantasy roster, you're like, oh my gosh, this is a train wreck. But then if you actually like sit down and watch the game, you like see what they're doing as a team, they are just demolishing people. Like they have a really good team. And it's because of that defense. Like that defense puts them in short field position all the time. They're not having to, put together 80, 85 yard drives. They're always in good. They're always got good starting field position, and they're able to just like move the ball very methodically. And they're running out a whole stable of running backs to run alongside Lamar Jackson. They've got Andrews, and then a whole bunch of nobodies that just like pick up quick chunk yards here and there. Like it's just this full unit of just do what you got to do to win the game, and they're doing that exceptionally well.
Yeah, they're putting beating on people, doing it, and it's like not like they're just eking out wins; they're stomping people, and it's kind of ridiculous. And like Lamar's he's out there, he's slinging the ball too. It's not that he's just running; he's actually making he's winning games with his arm, which is what everyone's always said, oh, he can't do. And he's improved greatly from when he was at Louisville, but I was always a big fan of him at Louisville, and he was always slinging the rock when he was down there. I mean, he just was 10 times the athlete of everyone else, so he usually didn't have to do that. He could just make the insane run and put up 30 points, in his sleep. So, I don't know. They're definitely a team right now that's looking kind of scary in the AFC.
Well, also the Bengals are looking. They're starting to really come into. They got through their early slow start that seems to be their way. For whatever reason.
Yeah.
Well, and also it didn't help that Joe Burrow was hurt. Like, he had the calf injury the first few weeks. So after they come out of their bye week, he's clearly healthy. He looks a lot different these past couple games than he did early on in the season in those first few games. Like that opening weekend when he aggravated that calf injury, like, you could see it as soon as it happened. And it was like, okay, like, he's done. He didn't miss a game. I don't know that he even missed a snap, but he was not right. He was not right. And he's gotten healthy. The rest of that team has really started to gel. That defense is looking like the brutally efficient, just like terrorizing defense that they were last year. It's that team is starting to round itself out as well.
Yeah, they're very much. They seem like they're the new Chargers. Just remember there for like maybe about 5-6 year span when Phillip Rivers was like at his peak. They always started super slow. And about halfway through the season, they got fired. They rattle off like 6-7 wins in a row, and then they'll make the playoffs. That kind of seems like the way that the Bengals are kind of like in that same mold. Like, they'll suck the first 4 weeks, 5 weeks of the season, and then something clicks, and they're like, all right, we're done playing, and now they're rolling. And yeah, their defense is looking really good. I mean, Burrow's got every weapon in the world to throw to. It's just the offensive line just seems to want to murder him every single week, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. Like, he took some shots against Buffalo. It was nasty. I was surprised he got up from like half of them. But even still, I mean, Joe Cool, he's the man. I mean, fuck LSU. I didn't say it too loud, but I mean, I've always been a big fan of his. I mean, he's too damn good. He's just something about him. You can't hate him. I mean, at least I can't. But yeah.
Well, and speaking of Buffalo, that team, that defense is starting to get healthy. The big problem they've had for the first half of the season so far is they've had one of the most injured defenses in the league, and they are very much an offensive team. When they play well on offense are the games where, kind of like what we were talking about with Baltimore, where you're always kind of starting with good field position because your defense is putting you in a good position. When Buffalo's defense is firing on all cylinders, that offense looks even better by association. Their defense has been incredibly banged up, and that's kind of why they've looked as mediocre as they have so far. Now, once that defense starts to get healthy, I think you've seen flashes where they really look like a legit contender, but they've got to have some health before they're going to really pull it together.
I say they probably have to be one of the – I don't know, Jim and I were talking about this last time, like maybe one of the top 3 disappointing teams in the league. Like, they look like they should – like, coming in this season, they should have been like one of the classes of the AFC, and then just something about them, they're just not clicking. Like you said, their defense hasn't been healthy. Josh Allen doesn't exactly seem like the same this year either. I think all those years of him not having a running game is starting to catch up to him.
They're they were my AFC pick to go to the Super Bowl this year, and yeah, I think that is the lack of a running game for so long, where like I think for a couple years in a row, Josh Allen was their leading runner, and he's not he's not what you would consider a running quarterback, but he was he was the guy who they were using him for design runs to move the sticks. And they do have decent backs this year. Like they should have a better running game, but I think something that's hurting them on the offensive side is Josh Allen really seems to have embraced the Brett Favre in him, and he goes gunslinger from time to time and puts them in a bad spot, throws the ball away trying to force stuff in there because he's got that big arm and he believes in himself to just like rocket that thing in there, and it doesn't always work. So being a little more measured and letting the game come to him would probably help a lot, but I don't know. I don't watch enough Buffalo games to see if it's like a game plan and a system problem, or if it's just Josh Allen trying to play hero ball.
I'm not sure about that either, but like looking at like the last few years with Josh Allen, like if he wasn't getting something done, it wasn't getting done on the offense. So when you're like point A and you're just the one doing everything, it's got to creep into your mind, like you said. You feel like, okay, everything's on my shoulders. I'm going to have to make this throw. I'm going to have to be perfect. I'm going to have to just will this into happening. And that probably can wear on you at a certain point and kind of mess with the way you play the game. But yeah, I don't know. Buffalo is just one of those teams that's just kind of weird. I mean, there's a few teams right now in the league, even still, where you're just like, you can't put your finger on them. You just can't figure out if they're good or if they're shitty, or if they're just a mediocre team.
Well, it's like the Dolphins. They'll go out and put up 70 against the Broncos, but then anytime they go up against a team that has a moderately good defense, they just get absolutely smacked down. Like they can't seem to hang with the big dogs. Philadelphia, the Chiefs, the Bills. Anytime they go against one of those like punch you in the mouth, hard nosed types of defenses, they get rocked, and that offense, for all of its like octane, just fizzles out real quick whenever they run up against a smash mouth type of a defense.
No, and growing up as a Dolphins fan, I mean, them losing some of these games, you expect them to lose these games. Like I expected them to lose that Eagles game, and they gave us hope this past week. I mean, they didn't play very well against Kansas City, but they had opportunities to tie that game up late in that game, and they shot themselves in the foot every single time. So I don't know if it's just a Dolphins thing. I don't know if it's a Tua thing, or if it's just something about this team that's maybe soft. It's kind of like a soft offense. Them losing that, I'm brain farting right now, that running back, the rookie running back that they had with Mostert.
Oh, A-Shane?
A-Shane, yeah. I mean, that kind of took them out of it a little bit because they were leaning on him really hard as opposed to Mostert. But now they have Mostert and no one to run the ball. I mean, Ahmed is not an NFL running back or a starting running back. So it's like
once Jeff Wilson gets healthy, he might be that guy. Jeff Wilson was always the better back between him and Mostert when they were in San Francisco, and when they first both ended up in Miami. Like Wilson was the better of the two, but he's just a couple weeks back from injury, and I think they may have rushed him back because of A-Chain getting hurt. So he might probably still not be fully healthy, and that's probably why they've got him splitting time with who's the third guy. Yeah, that's probably why they've got him splitting time with him. Like there's a possibility that once Wilson is fully healthy, then you start to see some of that explosiveness come back. And he showed some flashes of it this past weekend, but I think I think he got out of the backfield and had a touchdown that got called back for a holding or something. Like, he's getting there, but again, like you said, like maybe it seems like it's remember several years ago. I mean, it still stands true a lot today, but several years ago where you would have the Big 12 with the high-flying, high-octane offenses that just put up 40, 50 points a game. And then bowl season would hit, and they would play against SEC teams that play those smash mouth defenses, and all of a sudden that high flying offense can't put up more than 2 touchdowns, and they get run off the field. That's how I kind of feel about Miami. Like they have that offense, but as soon as that offense comes up against a defense that's ready to punch you in the mouth, then they kind of crumple.
Yeah, it does kind of seem like if you got guys on defense that are going to hit them at the line, they're going to disrupt. Like Waddle and Hill are not going to be able to do their little quick ins, or get the little wheel routes or something out there, and someone's going to disrupt their timing, that they aren't quite right. They can't exactly get open, or they don't have the timing. Like it's very much that Shanahan vein. I mean, it's McDaniel's offense, but you got to have that perfect timing in there to get your offense flowing. And it seems like if someone, like you said, if they come in, they smash you in the mouth, they hit you on the line, they bump you off schedule, that they really don't know what they're going to do. And Miami still has kind of like a subpar offensive line, which they've had forever. And it doesn't really give Tua much time back there. And you don't need him getting hit too many times and throwing up gang signs like he was when he had his concussion last year on the ground. But also their defense is finally getting healthy. I mean, they just got Ramsey back. Ramsey's going to take a few weeks to get into it. And with Xavier Howard, did he come back, or is he just about to come back? He should be back here soon.
I think he came back.
All right. So their defense is finally getting healthy, and they're probably going to have to lean on their defense a lot more in the second half. But yeah, I was talking to my uncle and my brother-in-law about it. They haven't beaten a team with a winning record. So they're definitely not a class in the AFC. They're not really a team. They'll win the East. I think they'll still win the East out there, but they're not going to make any noise in the playoffs. At least I don't think they will.
Anybody else to talk about coming out of these past few weeks? I know Vegas fired Josh McDaniel. All of Raider Nation rejoiced.
I know Bubba's happy about that.
They came out and won in commanding fashion against the New York Giants, so maybe take that with a grain of salt. I guess I think I saw somewhere that the Raiders are like 3-0 in the first game with an interim coach in the last 5 years or something like that. It's like, oh, that's impressive. Yay.
That's a very Raider stat. Yeah, that's a very Raider stat to have. I mean,
that's not something to brag about, I don't think, man.
No. If they were going to fire McDaniels, I have no idea why they didn't trade Devontae Adams. That's just another Raider move, typical Raider move. But I want to see Antonio Pierce do well. I liked him as a player. I thought he was a great linebacker up there for the Giants. But of course, his first game is against the Giants as a head coach. It's just, you got to love how the simulation works sometimes, right? And God, I don't know. He'll probably finish the season with a winning record as a head coach, and then they'll go and hire Vic Fangio or some shit as the next head coach. It's just what Mark Davis likes to do.
Yeah, I wish Buck was here. Like, I don't really have a lot to contribute to that. It's like, it's a very Raiderish thing to do, and I don't think it fixes any of their problems long term, but it makes everybody feel better in the short term, because a lot of people really, really did hate Josh McDaniels and weren't sure why, or my they were doing with him and that whole whatever.
My whole question is, I mean, the thing that never made sense was after he did what he did with Indy, how any NFL team would consider him to be a head coach. I mean, It's the NFL, so any crazy thing can happen. But after what he did to the Colts, you would have thought that there would have been like, only head coaching job he's ever going to possibly get is when Bill Belichick retires. So just park your ass in the OC chair and enjoy it for as long as Bill's the head coach up here in New England, and maybe you'll get a chance to be head coach afterwards. But other than that,
Speaking of, how long before he is back to being the offensive coordinator for the Patriots, since they're looking pretty pathetic offensively?
Well, they got Bill O'Brien there now, man. They don't need another offensive coordinator. Probably next year. Honestly, probably next year. I could see Bill O'Brien getting another college job somewhere in this coming year. I think he was pretty good at Penn State, wasn't he? If my memory serves me correctly.
He's always been a fine college coach. Like I can't think of any time that he's been like just an objectively bad college coach.
But I don't know. I mean, the only place that I could see Josh McDaniel having a job is maybe he'll go to Tennessee and be Tennessee's offensive coordinator with Mike Vrabel. But other than that, if they don't have some kind of Patriots connection, I don't see him going anywhere. But who I do want to talk about, fucking Josh McDaniel. He's a piece of shit. I mean, he's a horrible coach. He doesn't need to go. I mean, we don't need to waste any time talking about him. What I do want to talk about is Houston Texans. And I didn't think I would ever want to talk about the Houston Texans. But, man, did they seem like they got the right coach, and they seem like they got the right freaking quarterback. Because, holy shit, C.J. Stroud looks like that dude, man. He looks like that guy. He looks like the one that's going to break the streak of bust-ass Ohio State quarterbacks. I mean, he just willed – I mean, the Bucs are trash, but he just willed that team to victory last on Sunday. And it's just throwing darts out there. And I got to give him all the credit in the world. You know, and I'm a tried and true Ohio State hater. But after I saw what he did last year against Georgia, almost single-handedly winning that game, if Marvin Harrison Jr. didn't get hurt, Ohio State probably would have beaten Georgia last year in the playoffs. And now his rookie year, he's already breaking rookie records for the Houston Texans. So, I mean, just got to tip my hat. I mean, to C.J. Stroud and the Texans down there. I mean, DeMeco Ryans got those boys playing, and they're not going to be pushover for anyone. Like, I think they're going to give the Bengals all they can handle this coming week. I mean, I might be eating my words after that, but no, I think Bengals are not going to have an easy time with them coming up.
Yeah, Texans, you can tell they're going through the growing pains. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, to lose to the Falcons and the Panthers in really tight games. But then they also had other really good games before that they won. They beat the Jaguars, and I can't remember who else. But then, yeah, I mean, and this past weekend against the Bucs, like that was a impressive win. The fortitude as a team to hang in there and to finish that out like that was really impressive. So yeah, I mean they're probably not necessarily a playoff contender this year, although being in the AFC South, there's like the South sucks so bad, there's always a chance.
Man, they're 4-4. They're 500 right now. So it's like,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, the Jags, I mean, have been a disappointment so far. I'm like, the Jags are winning, but they have been a disappointment so far this year. You know, the Titans aren't really good. They just went, you know, they just moved on to homeboy. Oh my God, my brain.
Levis,
thank you. I wanted to say Locke for some reason. He's just riding the pine up there in Seattle. And then, you know, you got the Gardner Minshew Colts, who actually are looking pretty solid right about now. I mean, shit, I wouldn't be surprised if the Colts end up pulling off the division. So the South is middling in the AFC, but you know, all the teams seem to be pretty even at the moment.
Yes, they're all about equally mediocre.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
Well, you want to move on to working on some picks for this week? We got.
I'm down.
We've got the game of the year coming up. This Thursday night game. I mean, if you're not amped up for Panthers Bears, I don't know what's going to get you going. You know, I have not missed a Thursday night game It's been a while. Even when I was like not really watching the NFL, I would still catch the Thursday night games like almost by accident.
Yeah.
I'm the only reason that I'm going to watch this is because I'm going to be at work and I literally won't have anything better to do.
Nothing better to do but watch the Bears and the Panthers play each other.
Yeah,
at Soldier Field on a Thursday night.
This has given me the Broncos Colts 12-9 in overtime vibes like from last year. Do you remember? Did you watch that game? That was
yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. This game has given me that kind of an impression. Like I could either like pay attention to work and try to do my job or just put a bullet in my head. But instead, I'm probably going to watch this game. And luckily, for anybody who's a fan, Alan Mosley, and It's Too Late, he has a Discord channel, and we will get on the Discord channel and we'll all watch this horrible game together, and we will make fun of it together and get enjoyment out of it just by each other's company. So that's the best way to do this sort of thing.
Yes.
Who wins though? Like no matter who wins, we all lose.
Yeah, I mean, what is it? I'm looking at it right now. Chicago is favored by 3.5. I mean, I think Chicago has to win by default because they're just the slightly better team, just talent-wise. Their defense is better. And, I mean, I could just see Montez Sweat just eating Bryce Young alive for the entirety of that game. So, but then again, you have a homeboy from the D2 school playing for Chicago as quarterback.
I was about to say, is Justin Fields back or is he still out?
As far as I know, he's still out. So,
I know.
Even if Justin Fields was in there, I don't know if it would change my opinion of the game a whole lot more. I mean, at least you'd have a second running back on the field.
I know Khalil Herbert is expected to be back this week. Not that that makes a huge difference, but
I mean, I'd have to go with just Chicago. I'll go with Chicago to win in the points. Just because. Just because.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything that leads me to believe Fields is going to be back, and even if he was, that wouldn't be a deciding factor in my mind. I'll go with the Bears just because I think if nothing else, they have a better defense than the Panthers do. So
yeah.
Let's see. Moving on, then we've got Green Bay, Pittsburgh in the early round of games on Sunday. Pittsburgh's sitting at 5-3 and has looked surprisingly not terrible the last few weeks. I'm not going to say they're good by any means. Kenny Pickett is not that guy, but they do look like they can, at the very least, they can beat bad teams, and Green Bay may fall into that category. I wish they would fall a little harder into that category, but I'm really pulling for that Marvin Harrison, draft pick. But
oh yeah, you are a Packers fan. That's right. That's right. So we got to take a pause for a second here. So how are you feel? Are you feeling the love right about now, Justin?
Aaron Jones hasn't been healthy.
Yeah.
The receiving core is young and unimpressive. And even with all of that, he hasn't looked horrible. I was talking to a buddy at work the other night, and he was like, we just got to get rid of him. We need to draft, tank the rest of the season and draft a quarterback. I was like, tank the rest of the season and draft a legit number one wide receiver and put weapons around him and see what he can actually do. Because as of right now, you don't know what you've got because you haven't seen him play with a full array of weapons. Let's give him the opportunity. If at the end of next year, with having all of the tools at his disposal, he still looks like shit, then jettison his ass, and you've already got all of the weapons in place for a new guy who's going to be the guy. So, like, let's build around putting the pieces in place, and then if we find out for sure he's not the guy, the pieces are already in place for the next guy who could be the guy.
Yeah. I think it's, I agree. I think it's too early. Like, I think this year, you can't give up on him after this year unless he just has like some total collapse and he goes like full Zach Wilson the rest of the year. I mean, but you draft him in the first round, and because you drafted him in the first round, you no longer have a Hall of Fame quarterback on your team. You got to give him every opportunity to prove. Good Kuntz needs to give him every opportunity to prove that this pick wasn't like the worst first round draft pick in like the history of first. Fuck.
Oh,
What's
hey.
going on?
I decided to join up.
Well, we were just talking about the Packers and if we think Jordan Love is the guy or not. But we can put that on pause and go back because we quickly glazed over Raider Nation celebrating Josh McDaniels being jettisoned into the sun. How do you feel about the rest of the season going forward?
Well, certainly better than I did. I was in Pennsylvania over the last 10 days, and it started with the game against Detroit. And I was so nonchalant about it. I was like, whatever. And then the firing happened 2 days later, or actually 24 hours later. And then I became excited. Like I was still in Pennsylvania for the game against the Giants a couple of days ago. And had the firing not happened, I was with Julie and her sister, and I probably wouldn't have watched. And then all of a sudden I was like, okay, well now I'm excited. We got to watch this. And it was I've watched the team for a long time and followed beat writers and stuff. I've never seen it's so implicit that they couldn't stand Josh McDaniels, but they're not saying it. But the cigar smoking, the partying, the dancing even before the game happened, all of these things. And it's so obvious, like, wow, they hated him. And I thought just the fans did. So it's been a fun change to watch. I've never seen the locker room. A few times I've seen it this happy, but it's been very few and far between over the last 20 years. So I don't know what to think about the rest of the season. You know, we still have to play the Chiefs twice. We've not played them at all yet. And then Miami's coming up in a few weeks. I would say, I don't know, it's nice to get a test for the new regime about first the Giants and then the Jets. So we'll kind of see how, it's like a soft kind of landing, building blocks, baby steps. And then we go to Miami. I can't figure out what's going on with Miami. Duke, maybe you have a better clue on that. They're in your area. But from my perspective, it looks like they're amazing. And then they like go down a notch, and then they're amazing again. Then they go down. It's kind of like the Bills. I can't really figure out what's going on with them either. But anyway, yeah, I'm excited. I have learned to hold my expectations down quite a bit with the Raiders. So I'm excited about the new quarterback. I'm excited about the new coach, and the defense is, pretty good anyway. Yeah, it's exciting. Finally, they fired a guy. I've never seen one man set an organization back. One man with high expectations, I should say. We've all seen bad coaching and bad GMs, but this guy came from the quote-unquote Patriot way, which I've now decided was Tom Brady. That's clearly the Patriot way was only one person. McDaniels sucks. He's ruined franchises. Bill Belichick doesn't seem to have done much in his absence and Brady's absence. And then Tom Brady goes to the Bucs and wins a Super Bowl. So it seems like the quote-unquote Patriot way is done, which is probably a good thing, because I've learned also that they treat them like shit. I didn't know that really before this firing happened. But the players were using quotes like, well, we were walking on eggshells. There was no music being played. They wouldn't allow music, etc. And then he's gone and they're partying in the locker room. And then all of a sudden when the offensive genius is gone, we score over 20 points for the first time all season. What a strange development. It's so weird. On offense, I should say.
Yeah.
What a strange development. What a weird world we're in right now. But yeah, I'm happy.
So, what would you say was worse, Lane Kiffin or Josh McDaniels?
Probably Josh McDaniels, only because he was given much more power than Lane. Al Davis was still alive when Lane Kiffin came in, so Al basically was still controlling personnel moves. Josh McDaniels had a lot of power, getting rid of DC, which maybe needed to happen, but pulling in Jimmy G, not extending Josh Jacobs beyond 1 year, a lot of weird little things that he did. And Lane Kiffin was a college genius, right? That's what he came up. He was a college mind. This dude came from the Patriots, where he has a bunch of rings on his hand from his quote unquote offensive designs and scheming. So just for as far as high expectations and control that he had over the team, I would say Josh McDaniels is worse. Although they're both really slappable, like their face.
They both have that same kind of like air about them, where they got that douchiness.
Yeah, like a little arrogant, smug prick.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them. And I would say that when the Lane Kiffin hire happened, we were, as fans, at least kind of excited. Like, this guy could be a lot of Raider fans, not me specifically, but a lot of them love USC. So there was that connection, and they were kind of excited. With Josh McDaniels, Raider fans cannot stand the Patriots. And so for him to come, and the Broncos, which we loved that he ruined them for a few years, but for them to come in and say Patriot way and things like that, man, and even the Raiders PR team, he gets fired, and within hours there's a video clip, a montage of Marshawn Lynch explaining what the Raider way is. And it's like, this is so obvious what you guys are doing. Even the PR department's like, screw the Patriot way, this is the Raider way. So I've never seen such an obvious, we all hated this one person thing. It's so bizarre, but it's apparently pretty obvious at this point.
And when we were talking about it earlier, like I mentioned, how Josh McDaniels, well, first Justin goes, how long until he goes back to the Patriots? And then I asked, well, how the hell did he ever get a head coaching job after what happened with the Colts? They had him in the plane ready to come and sign the contract. He's like, no, I'm good. I'm going back to New England. I mean, how any NFL team could even entertain him coming in to be the leader of your franchise is asinine.
I agree. I don't think they will again. I suspect even not for the Pats. You never know with those guys, but I was wondering why we would have hired him after that and after the Broncos thing, both of those things. And there was one of the longtime Raiders high up execs that was asked about that. Well, what about what he did to the Broncos when we hired him? And the quote was, "I don't give a fuck about the Broncos." And it's like, okay, I get it. They're the enemy team, but like, don't you care that he screwed them over? He kind of ruined them for a few years. So yeah, that he just seems, I wanted to feel bad for him being fired, for him personally, not, but he's still getting paid. He has a contract. So now he's just chilling with his family and getting $10 million a year for a couple more years.
Man, I mean, Mark Davis is sure he's paying a lot of coaches to sit home right now, isn't he?
He is,
and a lot of goddamn money.
Yep. The Gruden thing was kind of out of his hands. I think that was I have conspiracy thoughts about what all went down with that, but that was a bit of a freak incident. But yeah, I know Mark Davis hasn't had the best record.
We all know what happened there. I mean, Goodell wanted him out of the league.
Yeah. Yeah. They go through, I don't know, there was like 100,000 emails. The only crazy ones they find are from one coach. Give me a break.
Yeah, right. I'm sure Snyder had a trove of choice emails floating around in there. Yeah,
it's like Epstein's list. For whatever reason, only one person got leaked from it. It was Gruden.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us there, Buck. I'm sure Justin was getting tired of just talking to me.
No. I was going to do this solo, so I'm just happy to have anybody to talk to.
No.
What were you saying about the Packers?
I asked him if he was feeling the love and how he feels the season is going, and we're basically saying how they have to ride with him for at least another year after everything that happened.
Yeah, I was saying I was talking to a buddy about this the other day who's also a Packers fan, and he was like, Jordan Love's a bum. We need to have a bad year, get a good draft pick, and just get a new quarterback. I was like, no, like Aaron Jones has been hurt. He doesn't have any receiving core. Like, we don't know what he is yet. Get a good draft pick. Get Marvin Harrison Jr., put some other like top flight talent around him, give him weapons, and then give him all of next year. And let's see what he's got. And if at the end of next year he's a bum, then okay, he's a fucking bum. But as of right now, we don't know. Like when like for instance, when Aaron Jones was healthy earlier in the season, he looked pretty good. Yeah. Jones got hurt. He looked like shit. Yep. Jones is back looking healthy again. Had a really good game this past weekend. Like, you know, if he has the weapons around him, and he's also young. Like you can't really expect a young quarterback who is relatively fresh into the NFL to just come out and, you know, light it up. They're not all going to be Andrew Luck. You know, they're not going to just come in and in their first year set the world on fire. So, you know, especially with inconsistent tools, and that receiving core is complete trash. And like I was saying, like, okay, if we put weapons around him and then it turns out he's a bum, well, now you've already got the weapons there for the next guy who might not be a bum. So, like, then you set them up for success early on.
And if he really sucks, and you'll land yourself in an area in the draft to get a QB, right? I mean, if he's bottom of the league as far as talent goes, maybe he'll be in the top 5. But I don't think he is. Also, there's recency bias from Packers fans. Not you, Justin, but I mean, not you. You're the opposite, apparently. But you have had the best guy in the league, you know, in the top 3 or 4 in the league for a long time. So, of course, there's a little bit of a drop off, right? You know, they're experiencing that on the Bucs a little bit. The Pats certainly experienced it. And if Mahomes ended his career tomorrow, the Chiefs would experience it. So it's just, you know, give it a few years.
And the Packers, they went from one Hall of Fame all-time quarterback to another Hall of Fame all-time quarterback. Yeah, give Jordan Love a little bit of time. I mean, yeah, he sat for a couple years behind Aaron Rodgers, but he also came from Utah State. I mean, what's the level of competition out there? You know, he didn't play a Cal in the Pac-12. But yeah,
Rodgers was clearly going to be the guy, but they also went 6-10 for a couple years. So, you know, it wasn't like in his first year he set the world on fire and they were making the playoffs and just beating the brakes off everybody. Like it took a little time for that system to come around what Rodgers was, because Rodgers was a much different quarterback than Brett Favre. So it took a year or two for that system to really come into its own with him as the quarterback. So, you know, when people forget about that, like you've got, like y'all were saying, you know, like you've got the recency bias and how good Rodgers was, but it didn't just, he wasn't that straight out of the gate. It took a little time for it to come together. So, you know, let's give it a little time for it to come together and see if it's, you know, what it's going to be.
And he sat for 3 years behind Brett Favre.
Yeah,
so he was there for a while. I mean,
and if they moved on from Love, another team would immediately pick Love up. And I was always worried about that with Carr. There was always, I mean, it's not happening necessarily yet. We'll see. I was always worried the fans that wanted to cut him. Where I was like, well, now he's going to go to the Broncos, or now he's going to go to this other team, and he's going to be great. And I feel like you've not given. Now we gave Carr 9 years. That's different, but you know, more than 1 or 2. What's that?
And he had some good years.
Yeah, some good ones. His best one, of course. What luck! He breaks his leg at the second to last game of this regular season. But yeah.
No, and the Saints, their offensive coordinator needs to go. I hear about it all the time from the one downstairs.
Oh, okay.
But no, just something about that system. Carr hasn't looked awful. I mean, you see them complaining on the sideline all the time. Like, you got Kamara, like, always chirping. You got David Carr always yelling at the offensive coordinator, like, what the fuck are you doing? So it's like, and there's some problems down there. But I've always liked Carr, and I think he's going to do just fine down there in New Orleans if they hold on to him for a couple of years.
I hope so.
Speaking of Derek Carr, that's another one of the 1 o'clock games on Sunday is New Orleans and Minnesota. This one is going to be at Minnesota. The Vikings are coming off their first game with who ended up starting? Was it
Dobbs? Is that who's
No,
there?
Dobbs didn't start.
He did not. Okay.
No, some other quarterback started and he got hurt, and then Dobbs had to come in like in the first quarter or something like that, because they had video of like Dobbs warming up on the sideline as the game is going on, getting the cadence, letting his center know what his cadence is before he went into the game.
That's rough.
He came in like shortly after the beginning of the game, but ended up pulling it out of his ass though, which I don't know if he's going to be able to do that this week. The Saints defense is too good.
I agree. Yeah.
Dobbs' problem in Arizona is he was trying too hard to win games, and they couldn't have that shit. That's not what the Cardinals are trying to do. So they had to run him out of town as quick as they could. Like, as soon as they had a trade partner for him, it's like, you're gone, buddy. Sorry, like you're one of those tryhards, and we don't want those around here this year.
They're going to start Kyler Murray this week, so they definitely aren't trying to win no game.
Right.
I'm glad Dobbs landed somewhere that he's going to get to play and have an opportunity to, because Minnesota does want to try to win games, even though I don't think they have a very good team. They do want to try to win games. But yeah, I don't know. New Orleans is one of those teams that I don't know if they're any good or not, but I think their defense has shown flashes of good enough that they should win this game, just because I don't think Minnesota is necessarily that good. I think they've had the benefit of they've caught some breaks like they did last year. Like last year, they won like a record number of games by a single touchdown or less.
That's right. Yeah.
They've caught a couple of those breaks again here over their little run where they put some wins together. I don't think that's sustainable. And without Kirk Cousins is not good, but somehow he manages to make it look like he is. Without him pulling miracles out of his ass, I think this finding the good luck comes to an end, and New Orleans will roll them.
I agree.
Yeah.
I did forget that there's another Germany game this weekend. We got I feel bad for the people of Germany. They have to watch the Colts play against the Patriots. They got their
low scoring like their soccer games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they got their good game last weekend with the Chiefs Dolphins. So this weekend they're being punished with Colts Patriots. I don't really have a whole lot to say about this one. I think Gardner Minshew led Colts are probably about a 500 team, and I don't think that New England is going to be anywhere close to that. So I'll go with the Colts.
Yeah, same. That's a.
I'm going to go with the Colts as well. I think the Colts are significantly better team than the Patriots are. I mean, they got a bunch of weapons. Their defense is pretty solid. I mean, like Gardner makes things happen. He's a game manager, but he's not going to. I don't know. Colts, they should win this game easily. I mean, the spread. I'm looking at the spread right now. It's only 1.5, which is kind of ridiculous.
Wow.
With how bad the Patriots are. I mean, maybe it's because they have to go to Germany and they're expecting them to be terrible because of that. But yeah, I think the Colts should win this game easily.
I saw some rumor that if the Pats lose, Belichick might be traded to the Redskins. Interesting, but
that's crazy because they just didn't like a few weeks ago a report came out that they gave him a secret extension in the offseason that no one reported on.
Yeah. I never know what to do with some of these things I see on NFL gossip, but just thought I'd throw it out there in case it happens. In case it happens, I can say, see, I knew it was going to happen.
Buck knew. Buck knew.
That's right.
I don't even know how that would work. I wonder how Ron Rivera feels about that.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Especially bringing in the enemy and everything.
Let's see. Next game we've got. Ooh, this ought to be a good one. Cleveland and Baltimore. There's always bad blood with those two teams anyway. Baltimore has looked really good. Cleveland, that defense might.
It's insane.
Excuse me. Yeah, that defense might be legit. This could be a slugfest, which any AFC North matchup is always going to be a slugfest, but this one could be like epic slugfest. I'm looking forward to this game. I think Baltimore is the better team, but it's one of those. It's in Baltimore, so that if it was in Cleveland, I would probably pick Cleveland. But with it being in Baltimore, I think I'm gonna go with the Ravens on this one.
The last time they played, I think Baltimore scored 4 offensive touchdowns on the Browns, which is rare. So that was in Cleveland. I'm going to have to go with Baltimore.
Yeah. I mean, Watson's back. I don't know how much of a difference that really makes. I mean, he's definitely better.
Isn't that crazy? We don't know now. Like he was like, what, 2 years ago he was badass, and now it's like, I'm not sure.
He's definitely better than PJ Walker. I'll give him that. Baltimore should win this game. Like I was talking about earlier, I think Baltimore is the class in the league right now. They look like the best team by far. I think they're better than KC. They're still undefeated, right? KC?
They lost on week 1 to the Jets. Was it the Jets? It was something surprising. Not the Jets.
Lions.
Lions.
That's what it was. That's right.
Lions.
But they've had a lot of close games, and Mahomes has not looked like Mahomes much this year. But, I think Baltimore wins. It's going to be one of those classic, 13-6 AFC North type of games, 9-6 games. Justin Tucker is going to get his money's worth like he usually does.
Baltimore. Yeah, I agree.
The next game we got, we talked about San Francisco earlier, and we've talked about Jacksonville, and both of them being a little bit disappointing. Well, we get to watch both of these disappointments square up against each other. San Fran is a 3-point favorite, and it's in Jacksonville.
So it's really a 6-point game, basically.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Justin. I'm thinking, big man.
I think the bye week is just what the doctor ordered for San Francisco. They come out this week ready to rock and roll. Jacksonville has been playing some close games and not looking particularly impressive along the way, and winning games that they've won the games that they should win against teams that they are arguably better than, but I don't think they haven't looked particularly good in doing so. I think San Francisco has a better team, and if they're coming back healthy off the bye, I think they're going to punch Jacksonville in the mouth.
My head says San Francisco. My heart says Jacksonville. I was so tired of when we were in Oakland. Oh, they're flying east. That's bad news for the Raiders. I want that to happen with other teams besides us. Jeez. I'm going to have to say the Niners, unfortunately.
I'm kind of in the same boat. My mind, my brain tells me this is San Francisco's game all the way. But, we talk about how Jacksonville is not that impressive. Jacksonville is, kind of so. They're 6-2.
I know.
It's like you tell me the Jaguars are 6-2 the way they play. I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
Right.
This is a typical game that the Jaguars will lose, and they would lose big. But I mean, the way that San Francisco's played the last several weeks, I wouldn't be surprised if the Jaguars won this game. But like you said, Justin, it's like they're coming off the bye week. They should be getting Deebo Samuel back. Christian McCaffrey should be healthy. I mean, Purdy, his brains aren't scrambled anymore, hopefully. I mean, yeah, I think this is definitely San Francisco's game to take and to prove that they are back on the winning trend, if you will. But she's fucking 6-2. I would not have guessed that.
Plus, I mean, they've won the games that they should have won. That's that's all you can really ask from your schedule. Like you look at.
No, and I like the Jaguars. I root for the Jaguars. I mean, being down here in Florida, don't really have a true team. I mean, I like the Dolphins and I like the Jags, but
so next we got a couple teams that we talked about earlier in the recapping the last few weeks. We've got Houston and Cincinnati.
Oh shit, that'll be good.
This one is in Cincy, and Cincy's a 6.5-point favorite. I think 6.5 is a lot, but it might be right too with the way they've come into their own. And Houston has looked good, but they've also been up and down. And like I said earlier, I don't think this is like the Houston season. I don't think they make the playoffs unless the rest of the South just completely collapses. I think they're like, next year they can make a run at it. And I think maybe this is the reminder week that we're not on that level yet, as Cincinnati is really, really coming into their own. That defense is looking very stout. Joe Burrow is returning to being one of the most efficient passers in the NFL. I think Cincinnati is going to take this one pretty easily.
Yeah, I hope the Texans win. But yeah, I agree. That's what with Justin's analysis. They're close. It's probably a year or so away from being pretty good, and the Bengals are already there. So I'd have to go. If I'm thinking clearly, I'd have to say Bengals. Although it'd be nice to see. I like C.J. Stroud. Be nice to see the Texans pull that out, but I think Bengals.
I would say the Bengals win, but my gut says that Houston's going to cover that 6.5 spread. So if we're going by the spread, I'm going to pick Houston, but straight up, I'm picking Cincinnati. But yeah, you're right. Their defense is coming into its own. They're starting to play a little bit better, but Houston's just got the last few weeks, just something about them. They got that edge to them. They got that fight in them. I mean, when you got a quarterback that can play like Stroud clearly can play, I mean, you're never really out of it. And it's the Bengals' way to kind of like choke on it a little bit and like screw up here and there. It is the Bengals. So, yeah, I'll say Cincy wins, but I think 6.5 is a lot. And I think Houston will cover that.
And the last game in the early slate, we've got another just impressive game of behemoth Titans of football to face off against each other. The Titans versus the Buccaneers being played in Tampa. Right now, it is basically it's a pick'em game. It's a 1 point for Tampa, so it's a toss up. I think Tampa might be okay, but also Tennessee seems to look better with Will Levis.
I like him.
The thing that I've said since the draft last year was if Will Levis has a decent running game, then he can be efficient. And like what you saw last week's game was early on in the game when it was close and they were able to run the ball, he played really well. Once they got behind and it got into the later part of the game where they had to rely on him to throw, he didn't look good. If they can keep it close and run the ball and keep a good balance on offense, Will Levis will look really good. And I think Levis is probably better than Baker Mayfield in that. And I think the two defenses are close to evenly matched. So I think the Titans could end up winning this one.
What's the Bucs record right now?
They're both 3-5.
They are.
Both
they're both
teams
3-5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean,
Man,
it's a
that's
very
tough
evenly
one.
matched game.
Yeah, it is. Then I'm gonna have to go with the home team. It's like quarterback. I'm not sure. Coach. They're both decent. Yeah, I guess I'll go with the home team then. Yeah, I'll go Bucks on this. Oh, this is a tough one.
Yeah. No, I agree. Now I'm gonna go with the Titans. I just think that I don't know, something about the Bucks this year is just maybe it's Baker, maybe it's just I don't trust Todd Bowles as a head coach. That's it right there, Justin. You're probably right, but no, I'm going to go with the Titans.
The last game that I watched of the Bucks, there were multiple moments where it was just like, why would a coach do that? And then it's like, oh yeah, it's Todd Bowles. Like that's like the most Todd Bowles thing that you could do. Like, you're down by 7 going into the half, and there's no reason to kick a field goal. Like you could just go ahead and try this, but you're out of field goal range. Arguably, you should take a shot at the end zone, and instead he tries and misses a field goal. That like, why? Like you had a chance to take a shot and you didn't. Like it's overly safely managed football, and you can't manage a football game like that with a quarterback like Baker Mayfield. Like that's just too contrasting of styles. Like Baker's gonna be a gunslinger and want to run and gun and do things, and the Todd Bowles style is to just be super safe and not do anything to risk possibly making a mistake. And it's infuriating to watch that team in certain moments.
Work out pretty well, don't they, Justin?
Yeah. Let's see. Moving into the second round of games for the day, I think this one could be a good game, but I don't think it's going to be a surprising outcome. We got Detroit and the Chargers.
Yes.
As Buck, like this is in LA or Inglewood, I guess.
That won't matter.
Yeah. So it's may as well be a home game for Detroit.
Yep. You saw, I don't know if y'all remember week 1 against the Chiefs, the amount of Lions fans of all places at the Chiefs stadium was crazy to me. I was shocked. Especially thinking, Detroit's historically bad. I get that they're good now, but for those fans to travel to a stadium where you assume the Chiefs are the best team in the league, and then in the fourth quarter, there's all these fans chanting "Let's go Lions," or and the Lions won. Sorry to interrupt, but I still can't get that picture out of my mind in a stadium similar to Vegas, LA, where you can get the opposing team's fans more than you would like to have if you're the home team.
Mm-hmm. But those fans have been waiting for 30 years to have an occasion to travel and be excited about their team. Like they saw that glimmer of hope at the end of the season last year, and they're like, let's do this. So, and I do think I think this will be a closer game, which it's Detroit's getting 2.5, so Vegas thinks it's going to be a close game too. I kind of like that. I think it will be about a field goal game. But I think at the end of the day, Chargers are going to do what the Chargers do, and Detroit will pull out the win.
I agree. Yeah, I think this is Detroit fans would probably it's about a good time to get out of Detroit and go down to Southern California. The Chargers are going to Charger. They're wasting one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL with bad coaching, and I think that I would have never thought this, but maybe a year, certainly 2 years ago. I think the Lions are going to beat the Chargers.
Yep. No, I agree wholeheartedly. I think the Lions are going to go down there. They're going to take it to them. Dan Campbell ain't going to let that, ain't going to let this opportunity go. But, Chargers, one of the worst ownerships in the league.
Yeah.
One of the worst coaches in the league.
Yeah.
And, I think the Lions are going to go down there. They're winning. The fact that they're getting 2.5 being away just shows how, even with Jared Goff as their quarterback, they're going to take it to him, I think.
Next, we've got the Atlanta Falcons traveling to Arizona to play against the Cardinals. And is it really going to be? Are they really going to start Kyler Murray?
That's the rumor. It's the rumor that he's going to start this week. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought there was some sort of like in the event that he got hurt, they would have to pay him next year. So that was why they were keeping him on the PUP list. I thought there was something along.
Okay, so we'll take a little tangent here. So do you think he will be on their team next year?
No.
No? You think there's no way he's on the Cardinals next year?
They're ready to move on from that whole experiment, and that's why they want to be so bad this year. They want to get which it sounds like Caleb Williams doesn't want to be got by them, but
right.
I mean, if you got to deal with him crying on the sidelines, is that really something that you want anyway? Like that's just Kyler Murray.
He's going to go to another. You're going to say it's Kyler Murray 2.0. Why would you want to go after Caleb Williams?
Right.
After getting away from.
Yeah, I don't think he comes back. I think the Falcons have had a couple bad weeks where they've had opportunities and pissed it away, or just straight up underperformed. Even the win that they got a few weeks ago, I can't remember who that was against. Like it was a shitty win. Like they haven't looked very good. I think
Titans. I think it was against the Titans, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it might have been. Like I think the Falcons are going to come out and look to have a good game against a clearly inferior team. I mean, it's always fun to beat up on the little brother, and if you got a chance, you can't fuck that up.
Yeah, jeez. What a brutal game. I think Magoo will be happy. I think the Falcons will win. This man, it's two teams I could not, this year at least, could not be less interested in watching. No offense, Magoo, but it's NFC for one. But yeah, I guess the Falcons.
Buck, what about we'll let Duke pick since you. And then we'll go back to that.
All right. No. I think it's probably the Falcons as well. I don't know what they've been doing the last few weeks. I guess Bijan's got a touch of the Harvin's. Like his brain isn't working quite right. I guess they got Meineke mufflers out there throwing the ball around. I think it's the Falcons only because the Cardinals aren't trying to win. And the Falcons will just win by default. So that's kind of how I feel about it.
Somebody's got to win the game, which takes us back to the Thursday night game this week. We've got the Bears and the Panthers. Who, speaking of two teams you couldn't care less about watching play, who do you think pulls out that slugfest for the ages?
I have recency bias. The Bears.
Yeah, that's who we picked as well. Definitely got the Bears on that one.
All right. Moving on. This actually could be a good game. I don't really know what to think of either of these teams either. We've got Washington and Seattle. This one will be in Seattle, and the Seahawks are a 6-point favorite as of right now.
There's a few teams in the league that have quarterbacks, and I see them play, and I'm like, who is that? Washington's one of them. I can't remember the guy's name.
Howell, I believe, is his name.
Okay, yeah. So that being said, Seahawks.
Sam Howell isn't that bad. He's actually statistically been pretty good this season, but he is kind of one of those like, who the fuck is that? And he's thrown 9 picks as well. Like for what he's done with the weapons around him in Washington, it's pretty impressive. But Seattle has a good defense, and I think Seattle's going to come out and win this game.
No, I agree. It's in Seattle. just a better team overall. I mean, yeah, they got Geno Smith. I mean, Geno Smith pulled one of the greatest tricks ever in the NFL last year, convincing people he was a starting NFL quarterback.
Yes.
But yeah, it's got to be Seattle. I mean, they're too much more talent on that team than in Washington, and yeah, it's the Redskins.
Well, and also people were thinking that game against the Ravens was going to be a good game last weekend, and then Seattle just straight up didn't show up and absolutely got the shit kicked out of them. Pete Carroll teams have and especially Seattle teams have a tendency to, if they get roughed up, come back out and want to return the favor to whoever crosses their path next. So this is going to be kind of a revenge game on top of that.
Yeah, and clearly Washington is one of those teams that they've decided at the trade deadline that they're not trying to win really much anymore this year. I mean, trading away some of your best defensive players, just like, hey, bye. We'll see you guys later.
Yeah.
So Seattle definitely should be the ones to handle this game.
I got to get out of here in a second. How many more games we got to pick?
Just 3. We'll run through them quick.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, you got to stay for the second one of these. But we'll finish up the middle of the day games. We've got a rematch of Week 1, Dallas and the Giants. This time it'll be in Arlington. Do we get a repeat of Week 1? Is it going to be 40-0?
It might be worse. Well, DeVito's starting at QB because the game I watched, this starting QB tore his ACL. That's going to be brutal. I'm not a Cowboys fan. They surround me in this area, and they're annoying. But I mean, that's not going to be a close game at all. These fans around here are going to be yelling "Super Bowl bound, baby," like they do every year, starting in preseason. But yeah, that's going to be brutal.
Yeah, the Cowboys are going to absolutely demolish them. Giants, at least were trying to win in Week 1, and they had their biggest comeback in the history of the franchise in Week 1. Giants are going to be tanking the rest of the year. Cowboys, they just happened to run into a better team last week, but they're looking pretty strong. I mean, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I hate the Cowboys, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys make it out of the NFC this year, the Super Bowl, because they have that good of a team. So, yeah.
Dak Prescott will be benched in this game for just to not harm his health. Like I guarantee by the fourth quarter, Dak will just be chilling on the sideline.
This is probably the line. This is the line of the week and maybe the line of the year. Dallas is favored by 16 in this one, and I think that might be. I think that might be about right. I could see this being like a 17-point game. I'm gonna take Dallas as well. That brings us to the nightcap on Sunday, the one that Buck is waiting for. You got the Raiders and the Jets, and this one will be back home in Las Vegas.
Yep. Round 2, Antonio Pierce, test number 2. The Raiders people that I listened to today they're so worried. It's funny. It's not like we won one big game against the Giants and now I think we're going to the Super Bowl, but everyone in the Raider Nation on the radio, at least, is like, well, it's going to be a close game, like 20-17, blah, blah, blah. It won't be a close game. The Raiders the defense and Max Crosby and these guys are going to demolish. After what I just saw last night that the Jets played?
Yeah.
Brutal. It was sack after sack after sack, as we did to the Giants. I think we will get over, let's say 24 Raiders, 12 Jets.
I'm shocked that Vegas is doing you guys dirty like this after last night's game. The Jets are favored by 1.5 right now. That is insane.
Yeah.
Unless Zach Wilson is banging his mom's friends, he ain't scoring at all. So, I'm going with the Raiders here, 100%. I mean,
that Jets 1.5 line, it feels like somebody's fucking with it. Like that doesn't seem like it can be right.
No, and it's like I mean, who's the guy that took over at quarterback for y'all?
Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah, is he a rookie?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't see how Justin Herbert had his worst game statistically in his career last night, and they still put up 24 on the Jets. I mean, yeah, the Raiders' defense is actually decent. I mean, they should be able to beat the Jets. I mean, that offense can't do anything. It's kind of shocking that
Zach
that spread
Wilson
is the way it is.
Zach Wilson lives his life on the run, and not because because he was banging their moms, but just because they're coming after him no matter what. And that offensive line isn't going to do anything to stop him. The only times that Zach Wilson actually looks good is when they get a good 3 or 5 step drop, and it's timing routes where the ball's coming out. But that's not that Jets offense. And no matter how much he looks good when they do that, they won't run that offense with him for some fucking reason. And so he's going to spend his life on the run, and nothing's going to come of it. Yeah, the Raiders are going to roll. This is maybe not the same way they rolled the Giants last week, but it's going to be – not going to be a –
I don't predict 30-6, but it's not gonna be within a field goal, would be my guess.
Right, it'll be a double.
And I'm very excited, to say the least.
I would be too.
And then our finale of the week, Monday Night Football, Broncos and Bills. I don't know what this is. It's going to be.
Where's it at?
It's in New York. Yeah, it's at Buffalo.
7.5 for Buffalo.
Ooh, damn.
Yeah. I don't like the line.
I don't like the line either, because both of these teams are kind of strangely confusing. But I have to take the Bills. I am not a Russell Wilson guy, and I cannot stand Sean Payton. These are probably emotional reasons rather than logic, but I hate the Broncos. I like Josh. Yeah, I just think the Bills are just a better overall team. They're just better.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I don't like the line. I think it's more of like a 4-point game probably than the 7.5. I do think Russell Wilson hasn't been good, but he also hasn't been bad.
Right.
Like, he hasn't made a lot of mistakes that have killed him. He just hasn't been, the Russ of his prime in Seattle. And that offense has been moderately efficient. They don't move the ball super well, but they score some. Yeah, it's a middling team. They're not terrible, but they're definitely not good. The Bills
defense is awful, though.
Yeah.
Their defense is awful, though.
And the Bills, if they can just if they can get Josh Allen to not throw the ball away 2 or 3 times, then they shouldn't have much problem. But he's going to throw it away at least once. So that's why I say it's like a 4-point game.
Yeah. I mean, Bills are one of those teams that they're just different when they're home. They're at least like a touchdown team, like a touchdown game better at home than they are away. I think the Bills win this for sure. And I got the same feeling as you. It's not 7.5, and the Broncos have surprisingly been better than they should be this year. They look awful at times, and then you're like, oh wait, they're 3-5 somehow.
Yeah, right.
The Bills should take this game because they are just a much better team and they're at home. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Broncos kept it close.
All right, boys, I got to get out of here.
Well, good evening. Thanks for joining us.
Good to chat with you. Good to see you, Duke. Good to see you, Justin. Good to chat with you guys. And
enjoy yourself.
Take it easy, man.
Go Raiders.
All right, we want to do a little quick recap of the college games this past weekend. We had some exciting ones.
Oh yeah, I'm down to do a quick recap on some of them.
I'd say we'll keep it about 15-20 minutes because there were really, we just want to hit the big ones, right?
The ones that really matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do we start? Texas, Kansas State. That was exciting. I went to Michigan and went to the Michigan Purdue game with Mark. That was not an exciting game. That was an absolute F game. It was a lot of fun. God, for as much as I just like hate Michigan,
Yeah.
it's hard not to like high five other fans and get excited and like have fun at the game when you're standing there with them. Like
No.
they scored a touchdown and all the fans around are like high fiving each other. I'm like, hell yeah, this is like, no, what am I doing? Fuck Michigan. But it was cool. It was a great experience. I have only been to SEC games previously. I've never been to a Big Ten game. So that was a lot of fun. It's not really.
I mean, it's the big house, and you got like 100,000 people around you, so it's an experience.
Right. It's not like the tailgating that's going on in town and stuff isn't exactly the same as like the kind of tailgating that goes on in the South with the SEC games, but it's still it's the same environment. It's a lot of fun and really exciting. So it was cool. We're trying to figure out. So we're making this is going to be our annual thing. Like Mark and I are going to go to a game every year. So now we got to figure out, and we are open to suggestions for where we should go next year for our college travel game. But
you got to go to South Bend.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you're right there, right?
That's not a bad idea. I have to run that by him. I had not considered, but yeah, that would be a lot of fun. Shit.
That would be a lot of fun, man. I would love to go to Notre Dame game up there. I mean, shit, I wouldn't mind. I mean, I hate Michigan, but I wouldn't mind going to a game in the big house. Just like I wouldn't mind going to Wrigley Field. I mean, I freaking hate the Cubs. I'm a Cardinals fan. So, but I would love to go see a Cardinals game at Wrigley Field. So,
let's see. We got Texas ended up pulling it out over Kansas State. That was a nail biter all the way to the end. What did you watch any of these games? Georgia, Missouri. That one was pretty tight there for a while, and then Georgia just kind of.
Yeah. I watched a little bit of the Texas-Kansas State game. Them having to go and pull it out in overtime was quite a thing. Kansas State, they're building something there. I've been to a game in Kansas State before. There's a decent little atmosphere there. I'm just really curious what the hell is gonna, next year, because we're SEC guys. I've been paying a little bit more attention to Texas and Oklahoma this year just to see like how I think they're going to translate. I mean, Oklahoma losing to Oklahoma State in Bedlam was huge. Definitely shook up the top 10 a lot. The Missouri-Georgia game went about how I expected it to go. Missouri was going to hang with them for a little bit, and then just Georgia's just too physical, and they have too much talent to hold back.
That was kind of how the Alabama LSU game went too. Like, I know you're living with somebody who's got a pretty strong bias on that one, but like when it was tied like 28-28, I was like, okay, now Alabama's going to stop fucking around with them, and we're going to see them turn on the Jets, and that's what they did. It was like,
the thing with that game, I don't know what happened to LSU's defense. They just decided that they're not going to play this year.
Man, like the games where they do play, they look so good, and then the games that they don't, it's like, was this the same team? Did y'all just put different people in those jerseys? What's going on?
But yeah, it's like the way that the trend is going this year with LSU. You knew once they got down a score, and it wasn't able to just trade back and forth, that the game was over. Because they weren't going to be able to stop. They couldn't stop Milroe to save their life whenever he freaking broke out of the pocket. And then, of course, once Jane Daniels got freaking speared and his brain scrambled, and they didn't toss the guy. I mean, it's crazy how they'll call targeting on like the smallest little thing. But then when they completely just destroy a quarterback, helmet to helmet, and they're like, no, we're not going to really take a look at that one, you know. But that was going back and forth. It was a fun game while it lasted. But then, once Kelly was starting to gamble, you know, he was going for it on fourth down. He was doing, you know, trying to get a little too cute. You knew that game was going to be over. I mean, Florida embarrassed themselves, but yeah, go ahead.
I was talking about Kelly like going for it on fourth down and gambling and stuff. How is it if Ed O does that? It's like it works out every time and it's amazing. But if Kelly does it, it just seems like he's like it's a stretch. He's just grasping at straws. This dude sucks. Is it just because he's a fucking Yankee?
It is because he's a fucking Yankee. It's because his karma's a bitch, man. You know, I mean, I just can't wait for him to leave this program high and dry like he did with his last two. You know, but it's no, it's because he's a Yankee. That's the only reason why we got to feel this certain way about him. But I mean, he's there for a long time. He's gonna have to get some things squared away with his defense if he wants to keep his job there. But I'm not looking forward to this game coming up this week. Florida going to Death Valley at night. They embarrassed themselves against Arkansas last week, but that's just Billy Napier calling plays, which he should not be doing anymore. But and I mean, don't get me started on the Gators, man. They got their special teams are choking and ruining the game, costing them games almost every single week. They don't have a special teams coordinator. They have a quality control coach. And then they have 2 offensive line coaches. It's like, what the fuck? And your offensive line sucks. It's at least the man can recruit, which has like been the biggest problem the last few years because Mullen did not recruit at all. But I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. That number 1 team in the country, Ohio State, sure struggled a bit against Rutgers. But I'm sure, are they still number 1 or did Georgia jump them?
No, I believe they're still number 1.
You know. Well, here's the thing. Do you think Jimbo makes it through the year at A&M?
That game had the potential to be a blowout early on, and Texas A&M kept it competitive, played Ole Miss tight, and we're in it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't think they're going to like – I think Texas A&M has too much invested in that program and in him to fire him mid-season. If they made a change, it would be an off-season thing, but I don't think they'll do that either. Like there's disappointment, but at the same time, like they're going to end up being bowl eligible by the end of the year. So, you know, they're going to get a mid-tier bowl, and you know, they're going to invest another $20 million into building that program and, you know, getting the right players in there. And by God, eventually you can outspend everybody else. It's going to work out, right? Like that's what the Yankees did.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, they spent all the money on him. They spent all the money on getting Patino back in there. Paterno, I always get them all confused. And yeah, he keeps bringing in good recruiting classes. But was it this last year? He had the most transfers out of any other program in the country. So it's like something, I don't know. I think he maybe has one more year after this because if Texas comes in to the SEC and now A&M and Texas got to play each other every single year again, just about, they're going to have to keep up with the Joneses because Sarkisian is building something pretty good down there. And they got Ewers. And they got this other kid. I can't remember what his name is. And then they got Arch coming up afterwards. So we shall see. I just hate Jimbo. I just fucking hate Jimbo Fisher. But yeah, I think he'll probably hang out there a couple more years, at least one more year after this.
So you'd mentioned taking a trip to South Bend. How about Notre Dame getting upset by Clemson? I've kind of felt like Clemson isn't – Dabo doesn't have the Clemson that he's had in years past, but he doesn't have a bad team. Like they've been super competitive in games that a lot of people might have written them off in, and a lot of it, like, he just doesn't have that elite dude that can, he doesn't have a Deshaun Watson or a Trevor Lawrence. He doesn't have that elite dude that can just put the team on his back down the stretch and make the plays that have to be made. So then it relies on the play calling, and the play calling is unimpressive, to put it mildly. So, but they still have a very good team, and you saw that against Notre Dame this past weekend. Like that was a game that a lot of people probably would have written them off in, but they have a good team and they have the ability to win games. It's just they almost have to win in spite of the coaching and the quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised he didn't try to bring Jeff Scott back after his horrible tenure there at USF to be his offensive coordinator again. But yeah, I mean, losing him as your offensive coordinator and then losing Vrabel as your longtime defensive coordinator, I mean, that took a lot out. Those two were huge recruiters for Clemson. Like you said, Clemson's still got a decent team. Dabo, I think, is still a really good coach. NIL, a lot of people kind of complain about NIL. I mean, I like NIL. I think it's a good thing for the sport. I mean, they've basically been semi-pro players for years now anyways. Like, we're just not pretending anymore, and it gives a little bit more parity to the league. So you get some of these places that you weren't going to get these, like Clemson was able to clean up beforehand. Like their whole area, they were able to clean up, get all their recruits. Now they aren't like the top 5 recruiting class every single year, so they're going to have to struggle a little bit more. But, I mean, Clemson's a decent team. This is the type of game that Notre Dame always loses because Notre Dame is always overrated. I mean, overrated is thrown around a lot. But in college football, you have ranking systems, so you can say that they're overrated because it's all part of the thing. But, yeah, this is the type of game that Notre Dame always loses. And, I mean, other than them whooping USC, I mean, really, who have they played impressively? I mean, to say that it was an upset is kind of, I think, stretching it a little bit. Like, yeah, they're better ranked than Clemson is, but who the hell did they ever play? And you look at USC and, Crybaby Williams out there, they have one of the worst defenses I may have ever seen in college football. Like, this is worse than like what we talked about, those old Big 12 teams that decide that we're not going to play defense. We're just going to throw the ball 1,000 times and put up 60 points, 120 combined. But yeah, no. I think Clemson's going to be just fine. They'll get themselves another one of these quarterbacks pretty soon, or they'll be just fine.
Speaking of USC, I think that kind of rounds out the big games over the weekend. You had the Washington USC. That was a shootout, to put it mildly. Washington is good. Washington is very good. I'm kind of surprised that they actually let USC score as much as they did. But I mean, once you hit a certain point of track meet in a game, I don't think like anybody's really trying to stop the scores from running up. So while I do think Washington's defense is better than allowing 42 points, once a game hits a certain point, then nobody's really worried about making big stops anymore.
No, I agree. Lincoln Riley's teams are going to score. It's just what's going to happen most of the time. Most games they're going to put up 30 points just in spite of themselves. Despite like we're talking a little shit about Caleb Williams, but he is a hell of a quarterback. He's a really, really good college quarterback. Is he going to be able to do this at the next level? I mean, he's a little undersized, and I think he's shown himself to be emotionally fragile this year with some of the things that's happened. Like you saw him pouting on the sideline in the Notre Dame game, crying with his mama on the sideline when he got beaten this past week. I mean,
And you also had the whole ordeal where his dad was saying, like, if he's going to get drafted by the Arizona Cardinals, he'll just stay in college for another year. He doesn't have to come out right now.
No, and they made the comment about how he doesn't need to come out because he can make just as much money staying in college. So, I mean, we shall see. I think all of those things are red flags. I mean, it doesn't matter how talented you are, that's not good. Talk about talent. Penix Jr. for Washington, that boy's good. That boy's really good. And Washington's decent. I mean, Washington beat Oregon, and Oregon's a pretty good team this year too. With a really good coach. I like Oregon's coach a lot. But yeah, it's kind of funny how the last year of the Pac-12 is probably going to be the best year that the Pac-12 has had ever since USC's heyday with Pete Carroll.
Yeah. I mean, this is probably the first time that I can remember the Pac-12 has had like 4 legit teams. Like, you know, you always had there for a long stretch. You had Oregon and USC, and sometimes UCLA, and
Stanford.
And Stanford. Like, this is the first time in a long time that they've had 4 legit teams that are all really, really good. So
yeah, and they're all going to the Big Ten next year, which is going to be interesting. I'm sorry, like a lot of people talking shit about all this realignment and everything like that. And I'm actually really looking forward to it. I'm kind of excited for it.
Regular season football is in college. Regular season football is important.
Yes.
Next year, with the realignment and all of these teams coming together in 2 major conferences, it's even more important than ever. And every week is going to be like titans of the college landscape going after each other. So I mean, how could you want anything more than that?
No, exactly. I mean, yeah, people are going to cry about like, oh, you're breaking up some traditions. Like, and I'm a big traditionalist. I like the old like when Texas left, or when Texas A&M left the Big 12 years ago. I'm like, oh, Texas A&M and Texas aren't going to play each other anymore. It's like, well, guess what? Now they are again. They're getting rid of the conferences in the SEC, and it's just going to be 16 teams. Fine, as long as Florida plays Georgia every single year, I'm not going to complain. I mean, yeah, Florida is the little brother right now, but I don't give a shit. As long as they play each other every year, we can file through. But it's going to be interesting. And ACC and Big 12 weren't sitting back either, because Utah's going to the Big 12, right?
I think that's right.
Yeah, Utah, Arizona going to Big 12. Stanford's going to the ACC. You got Oregon, Washington, UCLA, and USC now in the Big 10. I mean, you're going to get USC versus Ohio State. You're going to get USC and Michigan almost every single year. I mean, what's not to love about that? And you get to see these teams beat up on Purdue and Rutgers and things like that instead of beating up on Arizona State. So no, it's gonna be interesting, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm just curious to see if we're gonna stay with the 4 major conferences, because I think they've done what they can to kind of shore them up. But in a couple years, we'll see how much more they break up. or if they consolidated into 3 big conferences. Because I called it like last year, talking to a bunch of people. I'm like, the Pac-12 is going to die, and they're going to split up into the Big 12 and ACC and everything like that. But it is kind of funny. You got Stanford in the Atlantic Coast Conference. Oh well. But
it'll be fun anyway. If nothing else, it'll give us shit to talk about. Well,
exactly.
You got anything else?
Anything else? No. I'm good.
Yeah, I haven't even looked at the slate of college games for this weekend. I'm going to be working Saturday, so I hadn't even thought about it. And I don't think, like, last weekend was the big matchup weekend. I don't think we've got any, like, big slugfest coming up this weekend. Like,
no, like I said, we got Florida LSU. That's not even gonna. It's not gonna be a big game.
Georgia, Ole Miss, but like, I don't. Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin, they always show up for these big games, but they never close them. And that's while it's probably going to be a good game, I think Georgia will end up pulling that one out.
We got Florida State, Miami, but Miami is not that good, and Florida State's gonna, I think, keep rolling there. Though, actually, looking at the money line right now, I mean, it's 14.5. Florida State. So we got a lot of people picking Miami, but then what else do we got going on here?
Oregon, USC, but not like Oregon's.
Yeah, Oregon should beat USC. That will be a fun game. I'm sure it'll be freaking hella high scoring. Yeah, that's really about it.
Well, we will hopefully, if everything goes well, come back. I'm available next week, so if everything goes well, we will come back and do this again next week. And
indeed.
I
said indeed.
Maybe even Mark and Jim will be back. I mean, maybe Jim will quit working like a loser and start watching more football and come and talking shit with us.
Man, what a bum. He works.
We'll tell them Buck showed up tonight, so then they'll realize, like, oh shit, they're really slacking. If Buck got in here and they didn't, that's like, they should be embarrassed.
Yeah, next thing you know, Phil will show up, and then we'll know a lot of people are fucking up.
Right? If Matt Erickson comes back to the show before Jim makes it back, then we're just going to fire Jim. Like, that's it.
Tough luck, Magoo.
All right. See you next week.